This practical business planning surgery run by Firestarter in collaboration with the Landscape Institute. My name's Chris O'Riordan, and I'll be your host for the next hour of your lives. So I hope you have a good time. Just to give you a little bit of a feel how it's all going to hang together, we'll spend a few minutes just doing a little bit of an introduction, explaining how it all works. Then we'll actually get on to the core content. We've allowed 35 minutes for that. We'll then have some time for some Q&A at the end. If we manage it well, we might create a little bit more time for the Q&A, and then we shall wrap it up. So just before we get going, I'm just going to give you a little bit of sort of Zoom etiquette for this call, just so that everybody knows what's going on. So fingers crossed, you'll all have been brought on mute. If you get to a point where you need to participate, we have a production crew who will unmute you. The video, up to you whether you have it on or off. The best view is probably the full screen view at the top right hand of your screen. Polls, we're going to do a couple of polls during the course of this session. They're pretty straightforward, but I will explain how they work when we get to them. And then in terms of Q&A, so this is not a webinar. This is I think it's been billed as a surgery. So please just be as interactive as you want. Obviously, with the numbers on the call, then it's going to be quite difficult just to make it a kind of spontaneous conversation. So the suggestion is, if you've got some thoughts, please do put it in the chat. If you've got Q&A, then either just put them in the general chat and we'll pick them up, or send them to the question master, who you should be able to find in the participants. And then what we'll do when we get to the Q&A at the end, we will triage some of the common questions and potentially ask some people to ask their question as well. So when you think something, please do just put it in the chat and we'll pick it up. So just before you start, I'll give you a little bit of background on Firestarter. Some of you will have met us before, but some people may not have done. We work across a whole range of different clients of all different sizes, with a specific focus on performance improvement, growth initiatives, change management, and operational efficiency. And a lot of it is about removing the dependency on key individuals in businesses. We've been doing this for nearly 10 years now, and worked with 100 organizations of all different sizes, but have done a reasonable amount of work in the construction, architectural, and landscape and professional service sectors as well. So we get the whole challenges of the practice culture. And specifically, for about 4 or 5 years, we worked with Jane Finlay, who's now the president of the Landscape Institute, with her practice really closely. So we completely understand the challenges, and everything we've learned since we've been working with the Landscape Institute more generally has kind of affirmed that. So we're here today to talk about the practical business planning course. And that really makes me think, for some strange reason, of Russian dolls. And I shall kind of explain what I mean by that by just working through a few slides. So everybody knows with Russian dolls that you see one big doll, but actually within that, there are many dolls. So the first doll that we see is our full program. So when we work with people, sometimes we work with them for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years plus. And you can imagine that kind of gripping business planning for that sustained period of time is a really significant piece of work. Then next one down is we tend to do some one-off support projects where we work with people for a couple of months or even just a couple of weeks, just to really help them grip their business planning. Then the next one down is the 5-week course, the 5-week practical business planning course, which is 90-minute modules, 5 90-minute modules over 5 weeks. So that's one of the things we're offering to the Landscape Institute members. Then the next one down is the boot camp, which, to be fair, is the same 5 times 90-minute module content, but done over 5 days. So that's pretty intense. And then the last one down of all, the really little diddy practical business planning content share is what we're about to do now. And I kind of try and make this point because what I've got to achieve in the next sort of 35, 40 minutes is share with you probably content that I could make last 2 years. So hold on to your hats. This is going to be quite a whirlwind tour. So let's move on. And really, success today for me and for Firestarter is really one of three things. Either you're suitably inspired, suitably informed, you take away a few tricks just to get on with it. So you take away what we've talked about today and you just crack on with it. Or if you're interested in doing the 5-week practical business planning program, you pick that. And we've run some of these already with the Landscape Institute members very successfully, and it has a lovely pace to it, the 5-week program. There's one starting towards the end of this month, but they are going to come around again and again and again. And then if you're feeling particularly sort of desiring to nail your business planning, you could do the boot camp. There's actually one starting this week, and I think we could probably squeeze a couple more people into that. So if you're feeling particularly spontaneous and opportunistic and you have the time, get on that. But again, with the boot camp, that's literally a case of, as we get the right number of people, which is typically between 5 and 7, we'll put them on and just organize them around people's diaries. So just to give a little bit more detail on the boot camp, or the whole thing, it's £495. That is the special price that we have put together for the Landscape Institute, which is about 50% of what we normally charge for the practical business planning course. And we also now have this option of paying in 3 installments, and that's actually the same price and the same program for the 5-week course as well. So if you wanted to do either of those, they're £495. You can pay for them in 3 installments, and I think the way it works is the first installment wouldn't be until a month after you make the booking. So right, let's actually go. Let's get on with it. And the first thing we want to do is actually just talk about some pain points that we think people are probably experiencing, and understanding these challenges really what we want to support with the broader programs, but also the content today. So my question is, and when we get to the end of my my sharing these pain points, we'll do a little poll. How many of these do you recognize? So the first one is 2021 is up on us and we don't have a real plan. 2020 has been crazy, but it's actually really hard to plan when you don't know what's happening. So that's the first one. The next pain point is working out where business is going to come from is really difficult. And actually, our experience of working in this sector is that business development, finding opportunity, is not necessarily what you came into this for. But it's one of those realities that it has to happen if you're going to have a viable practice. The next pain point is we need to de-risk our business. We are too dependent on specific sectors, specific markets, specific big projects, a small cluster of people that buy from us on a regular basis, but we're not clear how to make significant progress with this. And then the last couple is we are landscape architects first and foremost. All elements of running a business are not why we came into this, but we want to find out how to operate effectively with the right team in place. And then the last one is, as for the longer term future, we can't even begin to put a shape around that. So there's so much uncertainty at the moment that this type of planning is really difficult. So I suspect you can probably see yourself in a lot of these. And what we're going to do now is we're going to run a quick poll where basically these points will all come on the screen. And all you have to do is select as many of them as you want. So any second now, you should see the poll come up on the screen. And if you just go through, pick some options, and then we will see what people are saying. Okay, we've just got a couple more people to vote. Right, I think what we'll do is I think pretty well everybody has voted. So if you haven't finished voting, hurry up. But we'll have a quick look at the results now. They should be coming up on your screen. And I suppose, not totally surprisingly, given the nature of the topic today, the leading one is planning for 2021 is really difficult. But to be fair, there's a real even balance across all of the other things as well, with the possible exception of no one told me it would be this difficult. So you're obviously a bunch of realists, or you have excellent friends who told you that you were crazy to go into this in the first place. But really interesting. And I suppose the good news is that all of these things we're going to talk about in the next 30 minutes or so. So depending on the version of Zoom that you've got, you may or may not have to close this window yourselves. This is the one thing we can't do for you. So I recommend you close that window now. So we, with the Landscape Institute, we have structured 3 courses, and I'm just going to give you a real quick sort of insight into them. Just because I think it's quite helpful contextually to judge the content that we're going to talk today within that. So the first one is the one we're talking about today, which is the practical business planning content. But we also do have a better business development course, same principle. It's a 5-module course, and that's designed for the challenges that people have in actually working out how they take themselves to market, how they operate as a business development person in their practice. And then finally, the building a winning team course is when you're trying to work out how do you get all your players in your practice or all the players in your network working for you in order to deliver your goals. So there's plenty of supporting information about all of these on our website. And obviously, if at any point you want information, please just do contact us and we shall get it to you as quickly as possible. So it's time. So brace yourselves. We're now going to try and fit a massive Russian doll inside a really little one and try and cover 5 large modules in just a few small minutes. The good news is that there are, however, some key tools as part of this practical business planning course. And I'll just give you a little overview. I'm not going to sort of share absolutely everything with you because we haven't got time. But the principle of the practical business planning sessions that we do is that we want to take you on a journey as straightforwardly as possible and actually eradicate all the things that get in the way of you doing this work. So we have over many years evolved a whole set of tools that we know now are tried and tested and just work for getting you to execute an effective business plan. And it starts with some work, and I'm going to share these and talk a little bit about these as we go through the next few minutes. It starts with pinning down your strategic intent. What is it that you actually want to do with your practice? Where are you taking it? And it really drills you into focusing on that. Then actually taking the big topic of strategy and simplifying it, getting it all on one page. And you'll notice this common theme. A lot of this is about getting everything just on one page. The concept of the vital few is picking out the things that if you had to really prioritize, what am I going to do to take my practice forward? Those would be the things. And how do I make sure I concentrate on delivering those things above everything else? They are born out of the strategic intent and born out of the strategy. The product strategy on the page, we're going to talk about that in quite some detail, because I think from the sessions we've done to date and the experience I've had historically, this is one of the biggest missing parts in this. Financial planning, always everybody's least favorite topic, but there are simple ways to do it that you can get through quickly, and you start to learn to look at financial planning in a whole different way. Then working out what to do with your team, and you may have and the people we've come across have got all different sizes of teams, everything from 1 person to 200 people, normally much more close to the lower end than the top end, but you really need to try and work out how you marry your roles with your goals. And then finally, we talk about actual execution, getting some rhythm and some rigor, some discipline into doing what you need to do. So I'm going to give you a taster of each of these 5 modules, and hopefully what you'll be able to do from this is just take away some simple ideas which will get you going. Also, when we get to the Q&A, hopefully what we'll do is we'll give people an opportunity to talk about the things that have been most thought-provoking for them. So this first module, just the benefits of this one, I guess, are it's an introduction of the simplicity that actually you can apply to business planning, and this concept that you can tick off some of these tasks really quite quickly without overcomplicating. Just do it. Just actually start writing things on a page, and you start to conceptually get a grip of what you need to do. So 3 little processes that we cover, and 3 little processes that, frankly, you could start thinking about now. The first one relates to articulating your strategic intent, which I'm going to just talk a little bit about in a moment, and then going through a process which helps you identify these vital few priorities that you need to concentrate for your business. So these are all tried and tested processes. And the strategic intent one, which and just as a point of interest, don't worry too much about trying to read these things on the screen. These are just kind of to give you conceptual position on what you should be doing. But if we look at this a little bit on the bigger screen, what you can see is that there are 5 standard topics that really you should have a view as to what your strategic intent is. So we encourage people to think about a 3-year window first and then a 1-year window. So this is one of those exercises. I always call these kind of park bench exercises. You could sit on a park bench and do this exercise and just answer these questions. In 3 years' time, financially, what is the shape of my practice? What do I want it to look like? Product, which is a topic we're going to talk about in a moment. What do I want to be delivering? What services do I want to be offering in 3 years' time? Is it what I'm doing at the moment? Is it something different? Team. What people do I need in my circle, in my practice, in my business, in order to deliver these things? What is it going to look like in 3 years' time? Processes. What processes do I need? So do I need better administration, better systems, better checks and measures, better compliance? What does it need to look like in my business that it doesn't look like now? What is that 3-year vision for that? And then leadership. And that normally revolves around you, the individual. What do you want your role to be in 3 years' time compared to what it is now? So you can see the illustration on this page here. What it does is it encourages you just to literally write a sentence, a couple of sentences for each one of those 5 standard topics. So you don't need a template to do this. You just need a pen and a piece of paper. But if you pick these topics, it massively helps you start to shape your mind. And the idea of having a 3-year and a 1-year is that what you do is you write the 3-year, because that's a reasonable time window, and then you ask yourself, if I'm going to get there in 3 years' time, what do I need it to look like in 1 year? So this, I would argue, is one of the most powerful exercises you can do, and most people who do this, they do it in 10, 15, 20 minutes, but it really gets you going. So that's the first thing. And in terms of detail today, that's the thing I'm going to talk about relating to strategic intent. It's just the first step, though, and in the extended course and bootcamp, we talk about a couple of other tools. The first one being, and I absolutely tell you, do not try and read what I'm about to put on the page. This next thing here is our strategy on a page. And what it does, just conceptually, it highlights down the left-hand side the strategic pillars that you will have in your business. So they are your financial strategy, your product strategy, your sales strategy, your marketing strategy, your operational strategy, your administration strategy, your team strategy, and your leadership strategy. And it encourages you to go through each one of those, ask some simple questions about where you are now, where you want to be, what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. And in that yellow column, identify what are the things I absolutely have to do to start changing this up. So this is like a couple of the exercises we do. This is a really good way to actually force you to confront these. And the fact it's on one page means you can't overcomplicate it. So once you've done this document, what you do is you go to that yellow column, and I promise you, having done this so many times, it just naturally tells you what your vital few are. With a little bit of consolidation, a little bit of thinking, you will end up with, these are the 5 big things I need to achieve in the next year. So that's the first module. And it takes quite a bit of thinking. It takes a couple of hours. There's various ways you can do it. But honestly, going from strategic intent through strategy on the page to vital few is really powerful work. So next, what we're going to do is have a look at the second module. Obviously, I'll then do 3, 4, and 5. It's pretty straightforward, this process. Benefits of this module, it sort of detaches you. It's all about product strategy. And really all I'm going to do here now is just kind of set some concepts. But what it does is it detaches you from the running around like mad, doing your day job, and asks you to start to think about, actually, what am I taking to market? What am I actually putting as my priority in terms of what I want to sell? Who am I selling it to? And how do I organize myself to concentrate on developing my product strategy in a way that's going to get my business to where I want it to be? So if you just look at some of the concepts here on the page, which is really all I'm going to share with you today, you can see that it's important that you're delivering a service, you're delivering your passion, but actually it is a range of revenue lines. And this is one of the challenges that people typically have in this sector. They can't separate out the revenue lines. But I'll give you some illustrations how people tend to do it. Sometimes they'll do it by sector. Sector seems to be a really good way to do it. Sometimes they do it by stages of the landscape architecture process. Sometimes they do it by key clients. And actually, the minute you can start to identify your different revenue lines, you can start to build thinking about, how do you organize yourself? How do you organize your marketing? How do you organize your business development? How do you organize your delivery to concentrate on each one? And if we move on to the next slide, what you'll see is that this is a really big challenge for you to think about, in terms of where are all the things that you do in their life cycle. So introduction, that's an idea that you've got something you want to do. Growth, that's something that's moving along quite nicely. Maturity, I really struggle to find an image here. I should have really just put myself on there. But maturity is where it is established and you are doing well with it. And then obviously decline is where it is starting to move away. And actually, you need to start to analyze everything you do in this type of way, because then it allows you to plan the right level of attention, the right level of resourcing around each one. So this is a massive topic, and I have to say, of all the topics, it tends to be the one that people struggle to really nail without some assistance. You've got to get your head straight on this topic as to what your service and product strategy is going forwards. What we'll do now is we'll move on to the third module. This is the topic that everybody hates, which is financial planning. And actually what we try to do with this is get you to a place where, if you don't really get this type of stuff, we'll get you to a place where you do get this type of stuff. And if you think it's super complicated and not the type of world that you want to be playing in, we have a tool which is just, again, a simple template, but it's there to try and just start to encourage you that you can play with numbers on a page, and you can start to build plans, and you can start to see the effects and how everything interconnects. And I always say to people, it's much better to do your scenario modeling on a tool, on a page, on a spreadsheet, than it is to find it out in real life. So there's some logical steps here to building a financial plan. So again, what you'll see as we talk about this is everything is connected. So identifying your revenue lines, working out in terms of what your goals are, how you plan those monthly, annually, understanding where the profit is. So this is a big challenge as well. But getting to a point where you understand doing this is a good thing. We sell lots of it, but actually it doesn't make us much money. Commonly in this industry, the enemy of money making is spending too much time on things. The enemy of introducing new revenue lines is not having the focus and the energy to do it. Understanding how you prioritize between your different revenue lines and where you put the attention is a key one. Understanding what support operational infrastructure you need both today and in the future to deliver the things, and working out how you're going to get yourself along that journey, and then just generally having a better understanding of the cost base of your business. So different organizations, different practices have got different levels of sophistication with this, but the key thing we achieve with this is spinning financial planning into a place where it's not just about understanding numbers on a page. It's understanding the consequences and the connectivity between every single element. And what you'll find if you go back 2 steps is that your strategic intent has to be really linked to this, and your product strategy has to be really linked to this. So now we're doing quite well. The 4th thing we're going to talk about is organizational shape. And I think this is an interesting one. There's a great saying from a book called Simply Brilliant by a guy whose name now escapes me, Fergus O'Connell, I think his name is, that things don't get done if people don't do them. And I always kind of think that is one of the key things that gets in the way of strategy getting executed. So this is all about linking the roles in your practice, the roles that you play, the focus, the things that you do, to the goals that you have set. And it's all about connecting your short-term thinking to your long-term thinking. So this next kind of illustration, this is a classic back of the envelope. And if you go back to the strategic intent exercise, it's the same kind of principle. You probably can do this on the back of an envelope sitting on a park bench. You don't need to spend hours and hours drawing organograms on PowerPoint or Excel or some funky tool. I really think most of this type of thinking you can do straightforwardly. And what this is just a really simplistic illustration that proves the point. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Pretty well every business in the world, no matter what it does, has this type of structure fundamentally, which is there has to be an element of the business that finds the business, creates the business. There has to be an element of the business that delivers whatever it is you are marketing. And then there's administration stuff, financy stuff, other admin type stuff. And ultimately, someone needs to be the boss. Commonly, obviously, in smaller businesses, you find yourself sitting in lots of these boxes, if not all of these boxes. And in order to develop an effective longer term business plan, you have to start thinking, how are we going to structure this? Or if you've got an existing team, you have to start thinking, right, is my team fundamentally operating within this type of mode? And if not, what do I need to sharpen up? If you link this to your financial business plan, what you start to do really quickly is you start to marry the revenue lines that you put up the top of your financial business plan with the team that you put down the bottom in your operating costs, and you start to think, have I got the team that helps me market it? Have I got the team that helps me deliver it? Have I got the right administrative and management structure in my organization? And again, it's not confined to large organizations. It's confined to, it works for all organizations. Wherever you are, you have to have these functions. So as it says there, just draw it, don't overcomplicate it. And then the next thing you massively need to think about is you. So typically with small practices. The challenge is, as I said, the boss tends to sit in all of the boxes, and it's almost, if you're building a long-term plan, you have to think, how do I get myself out of boxes, and which do I want to be in? And I think it's quite interesting in professional services organizations, but also in a lot of small businesses, that people start with the "I want to be my own boss" phenomenon, but actually what they really want to do is enjoy their passion. So it's a big personal piece of thinking to try and work out, do I actually want to be the boss? Do I want to be the head administrator? Do I want to be the person doing the invoicing? Or do I want to be doing the delivery? Or do I want to be the face of my business? You have to try and go on this journey over time and work out what your role is, and also just work out how you're going to move on from the things that you don't want to be doing, and when the right moment to do that will be. And again, this all links massively to everything that has come before. So financial planning, product line planning, and actually building a longer term vision that you're going to move towards. So I think massive topic this, but again, all I would encourage you to do just at a headline level is think, right, do I have clarity on how I'm going to deliver my strategic intent, and do I have clarity on the role that I want to play in it? There's a little bit more info that we're going to cover here, just on the people side of it. So I think there's 6 key steps, and clearly we talk about this in some detail in the courses and boot camps. So the first couple we've covered. So organizational planning, just like drawing it out, working out where you fit the best. Linking it all to your profit and loss, so your financial planning, your product strategy, and your strategic intent. So that's key as well. Then the other kind of things that we cover are talent management, and also understanding in your team, if you have a team, are these actually the people who are going to take you forward to where you want to be? So there's a real kind of a truism that often the people who got you here will not be the people who get you there, and you really have to think about that in terms of your longer term planning. And then we've got a couple of other simple tools that sort of cut to the chase in terms of what are you going to ask your people to do now in order to help you deliver your plans. And I think it's really important at this stage to make the point that especially in this type of climate, you can't. I think it's potentially careless to start writing massive long-term job description rewrites. You just need to organize yourself and your people to do the things today that are going to deliver the best possible version of the plan that you can do. So that fifth thing there, that areas of focus tool, is a really nice way just to shortcut. These are the goals that I want to set my people today for the next 3 months, the next 6 months. And that's something that I would really urge people to think a little bit about, and happy to give a bit more information about that as we maybe move through the Q&A. So finally, we go to the last module, and this is the one that tends to, and people have said to me in the past, you should cover this first, because this is the one that tends to get in the way. Having a plan is one thing, executing the plan is the real big next challenge. And what we focus on in the conversation around this is instantly creating the discipline and ways to sustain it, with things like having accountability buddies, or creating horizons that you have to work to in order to make sure you execute things. If you go back to that principle of the vital few, what you will find is that it helps you articulate the 5 things that you must do in your business to take you forward, and you have to marry that to the rhythm and rigor around the execution of it. So we talk all around that kind of thing, and all I'm going to do is just show you 2 or 3 tools just as means of illustration. And again, don't worry about getting your binoculars out for this next one, but this is just a sample operating calendar, where what you do is you make decisions about the things that are important to the delivery of your plan. So you say, for example, if you go down the vital few type approach, you say every month we're going to have a vital few review with the people who are owning the different things. So we make it an accountability point where, notwithstanding everything else you're doing, you have to come and talk about the thing that you own and the progress you've made. Or if you're not strong on your business development rigor in your business, set up a formal every week. Every 2 weeks, we have a proper review at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. If you're not good at studying your financials, every month you have a 1 hour session where you look at your financials. And it's just building this rigor in and connecting it to your goals and what you're trying to achieve. So you're making the accountability point work, and the planning it, sharing it, living it is the way to do it. And I just make this little final point on this slide. It's not about putting loads of meeting into your diary. It's actually identifying the moments where you're going to do the really key things to create the space to go and do everything else. Next couple of tools, again, just really simple. Like, people talk about KPIs, but they rarely track them religiously. So even just really simple things where you make a list of 4 or 5 KPIs, set a little target for it, and then track it every week. Give someone the job of tracking it every week. And my experience of doing this is 6 weeks actually is the window that it takes for you normally to start to say, okay, we said we were going to try and have X conversations a week, or we said we were going to try and improve our profitability by Y, or we said we were going to try to make sure we send out a newsletter every 2 weeks, or whatever you decide to do. If you track it, it will happen. And I promise you, tracking it over 6 to 10 weeks, you really start to see the trends, and it starts to tell you what to do. Similar kind of principle for slower moving things. We talked about this idea of having a vital few, and we talked about this idea of maybe having a meeting once a month where the people who own it are accountable. And you don't have to make it complicated. You just have to have simple little update things like this, which just says, this is what the initiative is, these are the metrics we're tracking, this is what I've done in the last month, this is what I'm going to do in the next month. And just these really simple bits of discipline start to breed this culture of rhythm and rigor into your practice. So that actually brings it all together. I'm only laughing because I gave myself to 11:38 to finish this content, and it's exactly 11:38. So that brings it all together. The principles of practical business planning. What I'm going to do now is I will just share this with you. This is part of the content that's available, and in terms of summarizing it, and if we just zoom this up on the big screen, what you can see is that like all of these elements are connected. So the first one was gripping your strategy, the strategic intent, the strategy on the page. The next one was deciding actually what are we taking to market? What are we doing now? Where do we want to get? Where are our new ideas? Where are our retiring ideas? How do we link this into a financial plan? So how do we plot our financial goals over maybe just the next 6 months, maybe the next year, related to the things we want to focus on? And then how do we start to build a team around that? How do we give people responsibilities that are going to drive this forward? And then finally, how do we get the rhythm and rigor into our day-to-day operation to really make it happen? So remember, there are 8 tools to support this, and also remember that what I've done in a really limited amount of time is I've covered content that potentially can take you 2-3 years, a lifetime, to continually rotate, ameliorate, and kind of take forwards. But I think the point here is that what we're doing is we're providing a framework that you can revisit time and time again. So even though kind of this is a life's work really that you'll embark on, what we're giving you is the tools and the mindset and the approach that will help you do that. So if we just sort of talk about the things you can do about it, just as a reminder, either you've just taken some great ideas from today, and you're going to run away. You're going to write your strategic intent. You're going to draw your organization chart on a back of an envelope and think, right, this is where I need to play in it. You're going to start thinking about your sector lines and which ones you're trying to take forward, which ones you're not. You're going to set some short-term goals for yourself and your people in terms of where you're going to take it forward. So that's a absolutely kind of hopefully a valid output from this today. Or if you want to do the course, the idea of doing the course is that it takes you on that journey and it really encourages you to think about each thing over the 5-week program. Or if you want to do it really quickly and you just say, I just want this done, do the boot camp. So as I said, there is one starting this week. If you fancied jumping on that, please shout up. We'll send you information afterwards. But clearly, as I said, groups of 5 to 7 is about what this tends to work with. So if we get the groups, we'll put them on if there's demand. So what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to go to some polls, a final poll. But before we did that, in order to let me have a drink, I'm going to ask someone who's been on the Practical Business Planning course, which is the amazing Romy Rawlings, who's going to just tell us a little bit about her business and the kind of experience she had, and give it from, I guess, the insider's point of view. So hopefully, through the magic of technology, we're going to be able to bring Romy up on the screen anytime now, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her world. Hey, it worked.
Hello, here.
Romy. Excellent. Right.
So
if I drink coffee, can you talk?
Yes, I think I can. There's a bit of a satellite delay going on, I think, but yeah, happy to.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your experience, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Oh, hang on a second.
Oh,
sorry, I got lost then. I'm back. Yeah, I finished the course, I think it was just the week or two before Christmas, so it's very fresh, very recent. And I signed up for the 5-week course with you. I know I'm very different probably to many of the people on the call today. I don't run a landscape architect practice, so it's a very different type of business, I suppose. But I think the 4 other people that I was on the course with were much more like probably everybody listening today. And it just meshed together, I think, for all of us. And I was concerned at the outset, I think probably most people are, about finding the time. I knew I was going to be very busy. I knew it was going to be difficult to allocate the time each week and then for homework and actually do the work that needed doing. And there were times where, you know, I was struggling to keep on top of it, but I have managed to do that. And I really don't think I would have found the time and made myself focus in the same way to spend, you know, 2-3 hours a week doing this. And just perfect timing, because it's put me in a much better position for this year across many of the areas, the business plan for this year, but actually now even thinking about 3 years and 5 years. We've got a 5-year strategy, so it tied in with that really well. I'm not looking to change the team I've got right now. There are 3 of us and 2 are quite recent joiners, but it was really useful thinking about that, whether it's right now and whether it's going to be right for the future. And we probably will be bringing in someone else later this year and maybe another 1 or 2 people next year. So it was good to have that in advance rather than playing catch up. So there were parts that were much more applicable to me and some that was less so, but it was just a really good opportunity to force myself to take the time that I know I should be taking and just don't generally. And I really do feel in a much stronger, better position for planning. And also we had some strategy meetings just before Christmas, just since Christmas last week. And the 2 guys that I work with found it very useful and sort of reassuring, I think, that, you know, I'd been delving into that depth and obviously then seeking their views on it. So yeah, I can't really recommend it highly enough. I think it was just very well timed and exactly the kind of content that certainly, you know, for our size of business worked really well. And I think it's scalable either way.
Brilliant. Romy, thank you ever so much. Such kind words. And I also think really important to give the perspective that there's a really interesting point that I think for a lot, there's a skills thing, isn't there? The templates and the facilitation and just finding a speedy way to get through things. But there's also there is this accountability, being forced, as you say, is like kind of a strong word, but like cracking the whip to get through the material in a facilitated way. So yeah, really lovely to hear. And thank you so much for coming on and saying those things. So
I'm happy if anybody wants to ask me questions outside of this by any means. So yeah, happy to do that too.
Thank you, Romy. That's really helpful. So what we'll do now is we'll say goodbye to Romy off the screen at least, and we'll go to the second poll. And this just is as much for our information, but also one of the things we do lots of these type of sessions in terms of forums. And one of the things that people always say to me is they love finding out that other people are in the same type of position and have got the same type of challenges. So we talked a little bit about the challenges. What I'd like to do now is just have a quick second poll about what has kind of resonated with you as we've gone through this today. So again, you can pick as many of these as you want to, but the question is, which of these did you find thought-provoking today? So I'll just quickly read them out as you read them out. So again, pick as many as you want. So which of these did you find thought-provoking? So how building strategic intent can be a simple exercise, so actually it doesn't have to be as complicated as people think it is. How picking a vital few to concentrate on can make strategy execution easier. How thinking more in terms of product lines, and this is a really conceptually difficult one for people to get to, can help organize thinking and planning. How aligning roles to goals, so don't just have a bunch of people, actually think, how do these people link to the goals that we've got? How rhythm and rigor is really important. And actually, the last one is my personal favorite, not leading the witness, but how connected all of these things are. You have to concentrate on all of them. So just, we'll give you a couple of minutes just to, or a minute or so just to tick some boxes. And then what we'll do is we'll move on to some Q&A for the last 10 minutes or so. Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll call it there. We've got quite a lot of responses, and I think the if we just the results will get shared ever so soon. So wow, okay, interesting. So the couple of points I would make on this is, the first one is that as Romy so correctly said, different people take different things from this. So it's really good to see the balance, but to be fair, it's a pretty even balance. But the one that is really pleasing for me, I guess, is this concept of the vital few. And just to help you out, when we worked with Jane's practice, that's exactly what we did. We had a vital few for 2 to 3 years, and it made such a difference because a number of senior people in the business were given ownership of one of the vital few, and suddenly it gets this whole sense that the business is contributing to its own destiny in a much more organized way. So that's great, and I think again just proves the point that it's some really good content that will be thought-provoking, whether you just come to this thing today or you get more involved. So again, the point that you need to close that box depending on which version have you got, otherwise you won't be able to see my beautiful face. So what we're going to do now is, I appreciate we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask my colleague and good friend Mr. Matthew Wheeler who is the marketing director for Firestarter. There he is. To
Hello.
kind of, in your capacity of head triager of questions that have been coming in, ask sort of let us know what kind of things people have been saying, what kind of questions have been directed at you.
Okay. Hi everybody. I've got quite a few questions coming in on a kind of practical level. So I'm just going to fire a few quick ones off at you, Chris, that you should be able to answer pretty quickly. First off, there's a couple of questions about people that are saying this course could be sort of pointed at larger practices that have more people in them, and people that are kind of single person practices, one man band type operations. Is this still a course that's valid to them, or is it kind of more targeted at larger practices?
So honest answer, I think it is as valid if you are one person as it is if you are 2,000 people. I think the strategic intent, so knowing where you're focused, where you're trying to get to, doesn't matter how big your organization is, you have to have that. Your product strategy, it doesn't matter how big your organization is, you need to know what it is you want to take to market and how you're going to deliver it. Your financial plan, you need to work out how that is connected, and typically with smaller organizations, they tend to partner with businesses, so that's still a cost. You still need to work out how you're going to do that and how you're going to focus on it. And then team, actually Romy's example is a good one. She started as one person and now she's 3 people, and then she might be 8 people, and so you need a plan around it. And then the discipline, that the classic challenge that smaller organizations have is that they tend to get too busy doing the day job to do any of this kind of stuff. So I think I'm convinced it's as valid for smaller organizations, one man bands, as it is for multinational businesses.
Excellent, thank you. And also linked to that question, there's a few people on the call today who are not actually the boss of their practice, so they're wondering whether it's still relevant to them, or should it be recommended for their boss to do it, or even if it's a course that can be done as a team.
Okay, so the shameless publicist in me says everyone should do it, but I guess what we've seen thus far is we've seen quite a lot of, we've seen 2 things related to this topic. We've seen quite a lot of kind of layer down, so one layer down from the boss, people doing it, and kind of as part of I guess broadening their reach in the business, broadening their experience, and when you're thinking, like I think when we showed the Firestarter kind of I guess mantra early on, we talked about removing dependency on key individuals. It's a really great opportunity to take people into the planning world, point 1, and then point 2, I think it's there's kind of a really good opportunity with things like the Vital Few to share the ownership. And certainly on the last round of the practical business planning course that we did, there was lots of talk about team collaboration. So when people did things like the strategy on a page, they wouldn't just do it by themselves and sit down. They'd get everybody in these times on a call, and they'd go through it, and ditto with the product strategy exercise, and ditto with the team thinking exercise. So I think it's a really good way for not bosses to start like owning something and participating in it.
Excellent. And then linked to that again is a specific questions just coming from Elizabeth Blackledge, actually, about the cost of courses, and specifically if more than one person from a practice is attending the course, what are the costs for those courses, and are there any discounts applied for multiple people?
Okay. So at the moment, so we're discounting our standard courses by more than 50%, actually. So whilst historically we've offered discounts for additional people, at the moment we're not, because the discounts are so kind of great for the course per se. That said, if practices specifically wanted to put, and we've had a few of these, they specifically wanted to put a number of people through, and it's virtually worth doing it as a practice course in its own right, we'd obviously have a conversation about that.
Okay, and Elizabeth has also just asked actually about this course providing sort of retirement planning and business continuity support and that sort of thing, which absolutely, it's very much tailored towards that as well, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, completely. And we've seen in our Firestarter history. I'd have to tell you, Matt, you know this, but in our Firestarter history, we've seen a huge number of practices, businesses use this type of thinking to support exit strategies of various different shapes, actually.
Excellent. Okay, couple of questions on the strategic intent and vital few. First question is how much detail should go into the strategic intent, and kind of how do you differentiate between the 3 year and the 1 year? I think you covered the 3 year and the 1 year side of things earlier on, but in terms of detail, if you just explain that a little bit.
I think the way to look at it is the sort of the park bench type mentality, which is I'm going to go and sit on a park bench with a blank piece of paper, and I'm just going to, like, those 5 subjects are as good as any. I'm just going to write down kind of really what comes to mind about each one of those. So, like, financial, I want to be like turning over X, or I want to be making Y of profit, or I want Z money in the bank. Product, I want to be doing these type of things. So I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I would start writing, and free, as I said, 3 year is a good window to think about because it's not too far away, but it's not too close.
And then on the vital few, again, just a question about the structure of that vital few. I mean, I think the flow really is when you've got the strategic intent, you've got your 5 items. That then turns into a strategy on a page, which clearly has more items included on it, and then you simplify further from the strategy on a page. So just a little bit on the detail of that vital few where you simplify down again.
So just, and this is kind of, it goes back to the point we were making earlier that this is process that you can just keep doing again and again and again. Experience says that if you take yourself, so if you give yourself a shape by doing the strategic intent, which is just you sitting on a park bench doing this type of exercise, you then make yourself do the strategy on a page exercise or do it as a team, and that's a really kind of, that's a much more led through the journey type exercise because it asks you questions for each one of those strategic pillars. And that yellow column at the end, what that does is it forces you to say, what do I actually have to do to start impacting this change? And just experience tells us, you'll know this, Matt, that actually it's self-fulfilling. The vital few, it bubbles up to the top. They come up, you'll pick them out. It's straightforward. So like it just tends to condense down to typically 5 or 4 or 5 vital few. It's self-fulfilling.
Yeah, it does become pretty obvious which areas you need to focus on once you've done the earlier exercise.
Yeah.
Nick Atherton has asked a question about the format of the one-off programs. And I guess we've got the sort of 2 one-off programs that we're talking about specifically today. Obviously, the practical business planning course that is run over the 5-week period, and also then we've got the boot camp as well, which is basically a condensed version of that practical business planning course into what's effectively 5 days. We'll spread it out a little bit over slightly more than 5 days, but just to give a sort of breakdown on the overall structure of those courses. Each of those 5 modules is formed out of a 90-minute Zoom session in the group, and that each of those modules are then covered in much more detail during those 90-minute sessions. As Romy said earlier, there is a little bit of homework that needs to be done after each of those sessions, and during that 5-week period you have one 90-minute session per week. We also hold 2 one-to-ones during the course of that program as well. So one generally is halfway through the course, and then another one is at the end, where we can review the detail that you've gone through during that course, and address any of your kind of more specific individual challenges for your business as well. And obviously the beauty of doing it within a group is that you can all share ideas and share your own challenges, and that becomes really valuable to see things on the other side of the fence as well. So that's the kind of basic structure of the 5-week course. For the boot camp that we're running or that we're starting this week, that really is just condensed into a much shorter period, and we're starting it on Wednesday with a 90-minute module session. We'll do another one on Thursday, another one on Friday, and then we'll finish them off into next week, and we'll also do the one-to-ones over the course of next week as well.
Yeah. So I'm just to add a couple of things, and I'm conscious of time actually because we're just running slightly over 12 o'clock. The couple of points with the boot camp. Obviously with the 5-week course, the one-to-ones kind of typically one happens after 3 weeks, one happens at the end. With the boot camp, we can't squeeze the one-to-ones in as we go, but that works really well because what you do is you do the intensity of the 5 sessions in a row, and then the 2 one-to-ones really support with the personalizing of it and making sure that you get the stuff done. So we kind of work the one-to-ones together. Matt, we probably need to leave it there in terms of questions. I'm sure what we'll do
just to say quickly, in the chat zone, there is a link to the landing page on our website for the Firestarter Landscape Institute Academy courses, where you'll see all the information that we've been going through, plus another short video as well, if you want to have a look at that in your own time.
Excellent. So we should probably wrap up. So I thank you very much for all of your contributions in the chat. What we'll do is we'll save the chat, we'll go through it, we'll try and pick up any of the questions that we didn't ask. Obviously, as mentioned previously, the objective really is that what we do is whether you choose to just take away what we've talked about today and do it by yourselves, fantastic. Or if you fancy doing the 5-week course, they're going to come round and round several times this year. If you want to do the boot camp, if you're feeling spontaneous and opportunistic, come along. We're starting one this Wednesday, as Matt was just describing. But again, it's just getting groups together, and we'll timetable them as appropriate. So in our follow-up over the next day or so, we will give people an opportunity to put their hands up if they're interested in doing it. You will get some more information sent to you after today. I understand that the multi-choice on the second poll didn't work. Our apologies, that must have been a technical glitch at our end, but nonetheless, your feedback was superbly illuminating. So thank you very much. So I think that is everything. Thank you very much for coming. Hope you enjoyed the whirlwind tour. We did indeed squeeze a massive doll into a very little doll. So we hope to see you all very soon, and I wish you all the best with the rest of your week. And if anybody does want to join us on Wednesday, please get in contact with us ASAP. All right, thank you very much, everybody. You can watch this little video at the end for just a little bit more information. Bye. Thanks very much.
This course is particularly suited to business owners and senior leaders who are focused on short, medium and long-term strategic planning in their business.
What business owners really like about the Practical Business Planning course is it's designed to really efficiently, really quickly help them get a grip on their strategy. So 5 simple modules, which each one allows them to almost immediately translate that into action, being gripping the strategy, working out their product strategy, working out their financial plan, working out what their team needs to look like, and working out what rigor they need to build into their business to get this delivered.
One of the benefits that people have found from attending this course is that business leaders have found a new sense of freedom, and they've been able to delegate much more of their strategic thinking and the actions that they want to deploy amongst the rest of their teams. This has then enabled them to get out of the day-to-day running of their business and focus more on their strategic goals.
To sign up for this course, just search Firestarter Academy online and it will take you to our portal where you can look at all the courses coming up and find the time that works for you.